What day is it? It's not Saturday. It's Monday. And why am I here on Monday? I'm here because I have Mrs. Perfectly Imperfect Keto Sana here to talk with me today. Let's go ahead and bring her over. How are you, my dear?
Hey, Dustin. Yes, it's not a Saturday. And everybody, Dustin, the sweetheart that he was super flexible with me because I could not do a Saturday. So I wholeheartedly, not only I appreciate the invitation, but I appreciate you being flexible to do this on a Monday.
100%. How are you doing, dear?
I am, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, yeah.
For a Monday, I am doing okay. So thankfully, work is out the way for the day. And it's just kind of time to relax. So, with that
Are you
being said,
working
I'm doing
remote or you
okay.
have an office to go to?
No, thankfully, I work remote. I would not be able to work on site any longer because I also homeschool our two kids. So, I definitely need the flexibility of work from home.
Yeah.
So, I've been doing that for probably like all in all, I've been like a work from home person for like 4 years now. Yeah.
I was work remote when I my job and I parted ways like at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. No, yeah, it was 2021. Yeah. And then end of 2020, going into 2021, and then I started my YouTube channel and became a stay-at-home
Oh,
grandpa
wow.
and all that fun stuff. So, you know. So we've got some people here. Let's see. We've got Jennifer Lucas. Good evening, my dear. How
Hey,
are you?
Jennifer.
She's asking, how are those beautiful boys of yours?
Oh, thank you. They are great. We actually came back. We went from Friday midday up until we came back yesterday evening, but we had took them to Legoland. It was our youngest, it was his seventh birthday yesterday. And it was a full-on surprise. He had no clue at all. So we tricked him like the couple months like leading up, and we were like, "Oh, we got to drop dad off for a work trip because it's 2 hours. It's a 2-hour drive just one way." So we had to kind of come up with like a fib to kind of tell him. So that was like the fib, the only fib that we were possibly able to go with was dad has a work trip that we got to drop him off to. Until we got, so many minutes from the entrance where they got, the big sign of it actually showing we're entering Legoland, and he was shocked. So they are more than great after having like a fun-filled weekend. Yeah, they are over the moon. Still, they're still riding on all those like just memories and just all the great time we
Had they
had
not
this
been there
weekend.
before?
The youngest, he never been before, and then, of course, all over YouTube, he's seeing all, like, these videos of all these tours of Legoland that he watches, and he just in general, they both love Legos, so that's, like, little bit of, like, our homeschool time. They actually have, like, hands-on building time, so they're both hooked when I tell you, like, I have on this dresser behind me. You can't probably tell like the shape of all of them, but it is pure Lego builds that he's done because they're both just hooked on Legos. So it was so exciting for him to go for the very first time. And then the oldest, who he has not been in probably like over 10 years. Like we
Mm.
initially took him when that park first opened, when he was probably like 4 or 5. But, even then, like, after, like, a whole decade, so much changes when it comes to these theme parks. So for both of them, it was, almost as if they both were going for the first time, but it's fun. Are you into Legos at all, Dustin?
I was when I was younger. I was into the Technique ones, and there's some things that I
Oh,
want
okay, yeah.
now.
Yeah.
There's the Optimus Prime set that I wanted. It was like $275 or some
Oh, yeah.
crazy amount of money like that. So there's things that I want, but the way my bank account is set up,
I know. There were some impressive ones. Like even going to the Lego store they had there, you're shocked of like some of the Lego models that they have. Like they had this huge it was a huge Iron Man and it was like $550 for
Mm.
that thing and I was just mind blown. And when you try to go to lift the box, it was heavy, heavy. So you could tell like literally how many pieces really were in there, but yeah, it's mind blowing of the prices of some of these
Oh yeah, I
sets.
don't even want to know anymore. Like all the Star Wars and everything. D. Lee is here. She says they say hello. I don't know who's who.
Donna, yes, that's Donna.
Hello,
Hello,
Donna.
Donna.
Our little gingerbread house. Hey, hey, hey.
Love that handle name.
And
Welcome,
Donna says, "Happy
welcome.
birthday, little one."
Thank you. Thank you so much,
And
Donna. Appreciate you.
Jennifer Lucas says her son is 45 and is still a Lego fanatic. I would be if I had more money and if I had a place to store them, like a room with shelves I could store them. I would
Yeah.
have I'd have like the Disney castle and all kinds of cool stuff like that.
Yeah, but they have those packs, the mystery packs of the collectible Disney ones. They have them specific for like the 100th anniversary because they had
Mhm.
bought. I was trying to see if he left any here, but yeah, they bought like a few packs of those and they're not too bad. I want to say they were like $6 or $7 per pack. And they were nice. Like the quality of them were really good, but they were just, just like the
Yeah.
little collectible figures.
Shander's not gonna let me pick up another habit. So YouTube is the most expensive habit you could ever have. So there's that. And then it's
I
so
hear
expensive.
you. I
We've
hear
got
you.
Jay Hoggart is here. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Jay. Hope you had a great weekend.
Priestess in the Pines. Hello from Arizona. Thank you for being
Hello,
here.
hello.
So I wanted to start off for some people that may not be familiar with you,
Yes.
coming from my end, kind of what or how you got your start.
Hmm.
What was the driving factor for you to start down this road? I know you've gone through keto into carnivore and kind of just, maybe a high level of how you got there, like,
Hmm.
or how we got where we are now, I should say.
Sure. No, absolutely. So this is definitely going to be a mind-blowing story for anyone who has not heard it as of yet, and for anyone that's familiar with the story. I'm going to literally start off from the very beginning, which it did not start with the journey being about myself. So our son, our oldest, he actually is 15 now as of the end of October, but he, out of the blue, he started dealing with seizures. So the first experience that happened with his seizures, we were actually literally out on the road, going to pick up his father from work. And in the car, he just ended up having a seizure. At the time, I did not know it was a seizure because, it was the first experience. And I've never experienced anyone having a seizure. Um, but from that point on, um, it was pretty much we went from that one experience of a seizure to him going through seizures anywhere from like 2 to 3 times a week, having to deal with them. So it was stressful. It was like a horrific nightmare of an experience for any parent to basically go from that one day experience to now this being such like a common thing where it basically became like our norm, having to basically do interventions every single time he had these seizure episodes. He went through so much testing. He went through testing with so many different specialists. When I say testing, he went through blood work, he went through colonoscopy, um, upper endoscopy. He went through so much radiology for all over his body, like full blown scans for his brain, for his nervous system. Any testing you could probably think of, this poor child had to go through it at the age of 8 years old. They could not come up with anything. The final doctor that we saw, that was kind of like the last straw for me to give up on the doctors, was a gastroenterologist. He basically said everything was impeccable when it came to all of his testing. But then again, he wanted to prescribe medication. He wanted to give him a medication. And when I looked up, when I just simply just internet searched what the medication looked like, they were what people consider like horse pills. So he wanted to have this child take these giant pills, taking three times a day. But then again, you're saying that this child, all the blood work, the colonoscopy you did on him, the upper endoscopy, everything was impeccable. But then again, you want to prescribe medication to him. For me, that was the last straw. Because for me, I basically said to myself, I am not going to have him be like a guinea pig to just kind of, throw medication at what they can't even put a diagnosis to. So how are you prescribing anything when you don't even have a diagnosis for what you're trying to medicate? So that's when I took kind of the matter into my own hands as mom, as being one of his number one advocates, and I just started internet searching. I started internet searching like nobody's business. And I came across a lot of information pertaining to ways of eating, children being on specific diets and stuff. So when I kept digging deeper, that's when I started seeing terminology like no sugar based diets for these children. Uh, all in all, the more research I did, then the actual terminology came across, a ketogenic way of eating. When I looked up what a ketogenic way of eating, I was even more shocked. And it led me to literally doing like a whole night's worth of research because I could not believe what I was seeing, which was a ketogenic way of eating was just all real food. It was not a program I had to purchase. It was not any supplements I had to buy for him. I was mind blown that it was simply just focusing and simply just tweaking, basically having processed foods, sugars. It was simply just tweaking all of that. It was simply just eliminating all of that and just sticking to the whole real food. So I said to myself, we absolutely can do this. Like, this is real food. And if anything, we would be saving a ton more money because we're just focusing on main ingredients. We're just focusing on a protein and, whatever veg he wants to eat and keeping it as simple as that. And when I tell you, we started January 5th of 2019. So he's been on it for over 5 years now. And 30 days in, not one seizure. So you have a child that went from having anywhere from 2 to 3 seizures a week and completely in 30 days not having any. We were still a little skeptical, but still yet 60 days passed, no seizures. 90 days came around, still no seizures. And I would ask him, how are you feeling? And he would just tell me, he's like, Mom, I feel so happy. That was his main thing, was because he missed out on so much activity he could have with friends, outdoor time. We were fearful to go really anywhere with him because, you don't want to be out in a public place and then out of nowhere, for him to have an episode. That's a scary thing because, he can fall, he can get injured, you don't know what could end up happening. So you almost feel like you have to have this child live in a bubble, so to speak. So he hardly was able to leave the house because we had fear of possibly him getting hurt, him getting injured. So he was just literally like a new child. Like he literally had like a newfound way of life. So you can only imagine it benefited him, but then we did it as a household. So when I tell you, I ended up having the benefit just doing it for the sake of my child. My husband ended up having benefit simply because he did it to support his family. And then our little guy, which at that time he was just about to turn 2, and he's had a huge benefit from it as well. So that's all in all how my keto journey pretty much had started for basically the sake of being my oldest son's advocate. So I myself, I had kept on keto, but then I want to say it was about almost coming up to like the 3-year mark of me kind of hitting my 3-year keto anniversary. I started having some issues myself. I started going through aches and pains. I started going through aches and pains where basically I had pains like such as like a heel spur, which anyone that's familiar with heel spurs, it's very painful. It is extremely painful that you feel like you can't even put support down on your heel. You're basically limping everywhere you go. So I dealt with so much between pains and aches. I also had ended up developing IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. That also kept me confined in the house. So, all in all, there was just something that I was incorporating part of my keto way of eating that was just no longer doing my body good. I tried doing ketovore because I figured, let me try to get a little bit strict and kind of tighten things a little bit with my keto way of eating. So I pretty much eliminated a lot of, uh, you know, the extra recipes that you can do when it comes to keto and just literally stuck to just the protein and veg. Still yet, I committed like a good amount of time to ketovore, and still yet, after several months, nothing relieved itself at all. Thankfully, because, this community is all about proper human diet. So I was aware that carnivore existed. I was hesitant to do carnivore because some of the stuff in the carnivore community can seem very intimidating. It can seem very dogmatic. But for me, I had to give it a try. My life depended on me giving it a try. Because also my mental health was in a very low, a very dark place. So I could not afford to not give it a try. So ultimately, January 1st of 2023, I started off with carnivore. I did do triple B and E because I felt like with all the issues that I had, the best benefit of going into carnivore would be for me to start off on an elimination. So that would have been, the best way to do it was through triple B and E. I initially committed to doing 30 days. I felt so amazing by week 3 that my pain that I went through was so alleviated that I was able to start walking just 3 weeks in, which was completely mind blowing for me. Then completely, like at the 30-day mark, not only was it the pain alleviated, but also the irritable bowel syndrome I was going through was completely gone. So not only did I have the freedom to be able to walk and not have limited mobility, but I also now had the freedom that I can now go out the house because I didn't have to, always be home to have a toilet always readily available to me. So the amount of freedom that I gained in just the 30 days, anyone that has been sick and to have been sick for so long, you only want more of that feeling to feel like this new leash on life. So the 30 days ended up turning into 60 days. And then after 60 days, I ended up going complete carnivore because I slowly started reintroducing one ingredient seasonings. I wanted to definitely be able to reincorporate things like chicken and seafood again to have more variety. But that was pretty much the transition from me starting keto, having experience with ketovore, and then ultimately over a year later being on carnivore.
So I want to back up a little bit and touch on a couple of things. I have questions about your son.
Hmm.
So, as someone who's young and someone who used to be young long ago,
Hmm. Yes.
myself, now he said he's happy doing keto. Has there been anything that he like so, he went from not being able to do things
Hmm.
because of fear of having seizures in a public place,
Yes.
missing, friends' birthdays, not doing things like that, to being
Hmm.
able to attend those again. Has he found any, or does he have any resentment to things that he can't have? So, like, if you go to a birthday
Hmm.
party, there's going to be cake, cupcakes,
Right.
sodas, punches, all that stuff. Does he, as a younger person, does he have any like animosity? Does he have any
Hmm.
like, I mean, does it bother him, or is he just going, well, I'm lucky enough to be able to be here. I don't care about these cookies and candies and all that stuff. Or
Right.
do you send him along with stuff that he can have?
So it was kind of like the flip side. I, as mom, was the one that was starting to feel guilty that here I was going to have him miss out on a childhood experience because he was missing out on the candy and at birthday parties or holiday parties. Because, of course, as homeschoolers, there's a lot of holiday events that basically include an entire table, a smorgasbord
Mhm.
of these homeschool mothers and fathers purchasing all these desserts. And that's mainly what it is desserts. There's not like a veggie platter, that anyone's bringing. It's fully focused on these kids and the mentality, oh, well, they're kids. Let's buy cupcakes, let's get a cake, and let's have candy for them. Nobody's thinking, well, just because they're kids, let's also have some real food too. So we pretty much altered basically for us, but then kind of also incorporating others, because we definitely not only want to be coming with stuff that he can eat, but we also kind of want to try to set an example. We don't pressure anyone, we don't tell anyone, "Oh, look, we brought this and it's actually healthier." We just literally bring it. We literally bring it. Whoever wants to enjoy it as well, they'll enjoy it as well. And then we can feel like we contributed something that was not only good for our son, but was good for others as well. Because for me, it's like I don't want to come to those events and bring something that I no longer agree with for our family. I'm not going to judge what anyone wants to feed their kids or what anyone wants to purchase for these events. But then again, I don't feel like it's fair, me personally, with as much as I know of like what these foods can do long term to somebody. Because we're not just talking about like one experience. We're not talking about, oh, like they're just doing this for one holiday.
Mhm.
A lot of the events they do, that's what they're bringing is a lot of processed, a lot of carb heavy, a lot of sugary items. So this is very much their way of eating. And, I don't want to come across like a hypocrite to anybody that here I'm just purchasing things for the sake of appearance to be bringing, these items that these kids are going to be, attracted to. I'm going to still stand by what I know and bring things. So, like, what I have brought before is like I'll do like a meat and cheese like roll up platter is what I would do. I would bring like a veggie platter and the kids they actually end up enjoying it. because like this is literally like a veggie platter with ranch and like kids absolutely love dipping everything in ranch dip. So even like all these things that I bring, like sometimes I'll bring like a veggie and cheese platter. There's so many different things. Like I'll buy those cheese wraps and I'll make like chicken salad wraps out of them and do like a platter out of it. And in the center, I'll put, some berries and stuff. So we'll bring what he can eat, but not in an exclusion way where I'm just, packing something solely for him to have while everybody is, basically foraging on what they have off of like this carb-filled and sugar-filled table. We'll bring something as if it's basically for everybody, and he'll basically just know like, this is what I'm supposed to be having. But as far as like him specifically expressing anything, I would say more so in the beginning when he was a lot younger, when we first had started off, um, he kind of felt like he was in pity party mode, kind of like, why me? Like, why, mom, do I have to be the one going through this? Like, this isn't fair. So very much so, like, we did go through that phase. But then when he started seeing, because little by little, when we started discovering more kid-friendly type of like recipes and stuff like that, and he started seeing, well, you know what? It's not that I just can't have these type of foods. I just can't have it with the ingredients that I used to have it with. So it's kind of like a pizza. Pizza now is not, your flour pizza, like your white flour or wheat flour. It's now like a fathead dough pizza. You're either using almond flour if you want to keep away from almonds, if you have any inflammation issues, use coconut flour. So it very much became where we just showed him there are better ingredients out there that we have to focus on. So it's not that you can't have those foods any longer, it's just the ingredients that we have to focus on. And, little by little, things got so much easier because he still saw that there were enjoyable foods to be had. And he saw that, it wasn't all about the food. So literally, like if he asked me for cheeseburgers, like bunless burgers every single day, he was able to have bunless cheeseburgers every single day. It's not where mom's going to be like, oh no, like you already had that yesterday. No, like if he wanted it every single day, he was going to get it every single day. Like it made my life easier. So I would definitely not object to cheeseburgers every day. But, it got really to the point where he was so accepting of it, especially for him to have freedom like he was gaining that he didn't have before. Because it can get really lonely. It can get really lonely for a kid to have that kind of isolation. Because mind you, our kids are homeschooled, but then again, they have so much social opportunity locally within our community because thankfully we have a really great homeschool community. So they have so much opportunity to socialize. So having a child have those social events and then just kind of having that all like literally ripped away from them. Like literally it's like somebody came and like stole something from this child is literally how he felt because he was very much in a depression in a way. And it's a scary thing, for a child to be even less than 12 years old. You're talking about the time that he early on was going through that was 8 and 9 years old. And for a child to go through depression at that age, and, he himself didn't see it as depression. He just saw it as him being sad. But very much so, when that mood, when it lingers for so long, because, for a year plus, he could not participate in anything. He pretty much had to be at home. It can get rough for a kid. It can get really rough for a kid. So I think because of literally everything he was going through and now everything he was able to now benefit from, and that he actually went from isolation to completely having his life back in a better form because he had no seizures, he had energy through the roof. So all in all, like he felt the difference. So for him, he grew up very fast. And it's sad to say that he had to grow up fast to really understand life in a way like he had to understand it. Because a lot of kids, they don't have to worry about those type of things that, oh, this type of food is more beneficial for my body. This type of food is going to keep me healthy and going to keep seizures away. So there's a lot he had to learn. There's a lot of stuff that he had to have the proper mental perspective about when it came to carbs, when it came to sugar. And that's a lot of stuff that a lot of 8 and 9-year-olds, they should not necessarily have to really learn about. But I have no regret. I have no regret that he was exposed to it early on. Um, and he's absolutely flourished because of this way of eating. So I would say in the beginning, it was a difficult transition because of what he had to go through. And also because initially we didn't know if eliminating all the foods that he was eating on the standard American diet and then him going keto, we didn't know if he was still going to deal with the seizures. So here, he kind of had the thought, well, you're going to take all those foods away from me. And what if I still have seizures? That I'm going to be miserable without my favorite foods and I'm going to have seizures and I'm going to still be sick. So he also had that thought as well of what if nothing gets resolved kind of thing and you're still taking this food away from me.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, but kids are so resilient when I tell you, because in the beginning, did we really kind of go through it with him because he did have some pushback. But I'm telling you, like after 3 months, and it's difficult. It's difficult to go through pushback from a kid for 3 months, and then 3 months later for him to finally get it. It's a long time when you really think about a 3-month time period. 90 days is a very long time for anyone to commit to anything, let alone a child. But we're happy and we're so grateful that he really kind of had that aha moment as a child, which it's not easy for a child to understand fully, to really kind of connect with their body and how their body has healed, because children should not really have to think about those things. But because of what he went through and really truly he felt how sick his body was, and for him to not have that sickness any longer, he definitely felt the difference. Even being a child and not fully understanding, the way health works, the way, foods out there necessarily work for the body, he fully was able to grasp that understanding only because of his personal experience with it.
It is very heavy. You would think that that's such a heavy, I would say it's not a burden,
Mhm.
but it's a heavy piece of information
Oh,
to put on
yes.
a child, to put on a child
Yeah.
and say, you're not like the rest of your friends. You are
Mhm.
now going to eat this way. We found that this works. You're going to not have your foods that you like. You're not going to have seizures,
Yeah.
instead of what happens a lot,
Mhm.
instead of doing an elimination diet and just saying, well, here's pills. Now you're going to take these pills every day for the rest of your
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
And, you know, it, it is difficult, I imagine, as a parent
Mhm.
to take that away at that age because they'd already come to know a lot of those foods,
Right.
pizza, Coke, all that stuff, because and then as on top of it, you're not just doing it to your kid. You are then probably feel judged by other parents.
Mhm.
Why won't you let him have that? Because we've come to know, like, like the crazy parent that the kid's allergic to everything. They're allergic to
Yeah.
gluten, so everything's gonna be gluten free. Oh, here comes the parent with the gluten free kid
Right.
or the peanut allergy kid. And we run across this with our granddaughters in school now, and they can't bring any of their own snacks to school
Mhm.
because of something that may be in their food that could impact another student. At the same
Right.
time, our granddaughter is basically in line with keto because that's what we know to feed her,
Right.
where
Right.
she still eats carby stuff because she's a kid,
Mhm.
but we don't go out of our way to give her candy. We don't
Yeah.
do like we will get her McDonald's most of the time on Friday,
Mhm.
cheeseburger, French fries, whatever, milk.
Yeah.
But most of the time, most of her food is cottage cheese, eggs. She doesn't eat a lot of meat right now. She's kind of, I don't want to eat meat, but
Right.
she'll eat
Right.
eggs. So we do what we can. She
Yeah.
likes little cheese balls, like the little crunchy yellow cheese balls and such. But she's also a very finicky, picky eater. So we can't
Mhm.
even send snacks with her to school that she would like to eat because they have to have
Right.
specific snacks. And she's like, well, they had this, but I didn't like it, but I ate it anyway.
Yeah, because of
So
the
it's like
restrictions.
because
Yeah,
of the
it's
restrictions,
difficult.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really difficult. I think that is like our biggest benefit is because, our kids are homeschooled, so we pretty much have full control. Um, but when it comes to like the judgment and stuff like that, I've had like occasional experience, like not too many, because I would think like some are kind of like afraid to come out and say anything to me.
Right.
But for me, I had one time where like it was a girl's birthday and we had gone and the parent basically got, multiple there was probably like over like 40 boxes of like Little Caesars pizza she got. Because of course, for her that's the affordable thing because they're like $5 each per pie of
Mhm.
pizza and she figured, that's what she's going to feed the party. So for us, we adapt to the situation. I told our son, just pick off the toppings. Pick off the toppings with the cheese, and that's what you'll eat. You'll just leave the crust. And when she saw that, she basically like she approached me and she was like, "Oh," she's like, "Why is he doing that?" And I said, "Because he can't eat the crust." I said, "It might result in him having a seizure episode like what he was having before, that he cannot have the crust." But still yet, even though I'm saying that to this parent, because they don't really get it, because they just don't really have the knowledge like we've exposed ourselves to and that we've basically absorbed by personal experience and by researching and kind of just really being in this community and being open to all the information that's, being spoken by all the healthcare professionals within this community. So she basically just said, well, it might be good for him to at least eat some of the crust because I just feel like he's being wasteful. And I told her, I was like, okay, well, let's wait till he's finished. I said, let him be a kid, eat what he's able to eat. So he's able to eat something while the other kids are eating. And I said, I'm going to see how many slices he eats. And however many is equivalent to however many pies of pizza, I'll pay you for them. I'll pay you for them because if we're talking about the sake of him being wasteful, all right, I'll pay you. And then that's when she kind of like took a step back and she was like, "Oh no, like I purchased these for the party. No, like he's part of the party. That no, it's okay." And then like she kind of took a step back and she started feeling bad because to me, it's like I was not gonna make a big deal about it. To me,
Right.
it's like, if we're putting a monetary value to him being wasteful, like, "Honey, I will pay you." Like, how many.
Right, right. As somebody who's been cheap for most of my life,
Yes,
like I understand, like you see it from their perspective. They're like, well, I
exactly.
go out and I'm getting these kids, I'm getting them
Right.
these, you know, these pizzas, and they've cost me X amount of dollars,
Mhm.
and they're only going to this one kid is only going to
Right.
eat the toppings, and that crust is part of what I paid. You're
Yeah.
not thinking about it in monetary value, but you're
No.
thinking about it as wasteful food,
Yeah.
because that's one thing, at least in my household, we were a clean plate club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had to clean your
I was
plate. You
very
you
much from
didn't
that
leave. Yeah.
generation. No, waste not, wants not
Yeah.
is really what was, told to us. It was very much engraved in us, think about the starving children in
Mhm.
XYZ country. And, it was very much that guilt trip that was always told to us if we tried to, leave anything on our plates. So we were very much part of that same. Um, but still, yeah, the way she kind of came at me was almost as if she felt like, oh, like I bought these, and like, another kid can fully be eating, the whole pie of pizza while he's just, picking off the toppings. So for me, I said, you know what, that was the way I felt like I can kind of handle the situation. Like, I'll pay you. Like if you
Like the
feel like
crust is
he's
the cheapest part
wasting.
of the pizza. Like you could throw
Exactly.
away the crust and probably have no real monetary difference
Exactly.
in the cost of the
Yeah.
pizza.
I had work like in high school, I actually had worked for a pizzeria.
Yeah.
And it is
Chuck E. Cheese, yeah.
mind blowing when you literally like see from like the day's worth, like when you first in the morning, when you're making the dough and you just think of how many, because you're having to prep, the balls of dough that is going to end up being, each pie of pizza. When you see how many balls of dough you are able to make and how many trays worth, and you literally have a visual like, oh my goodness, like this is a lot of pizza that is going to be made from this batch of dough that we made. And it is like, it is pennies, pennies on the dollar
Mhm.
when it comes to that batch of dough. And some people, they don't really realize it. When they think of like the bulk of it, they don't really realize it. But I think that's the only like real kind of like experience I had where a parent kind of got like a little snippy. But, I kept myself calm because for me, it was not about me, creating a scene or anything like that. It was, he was just eating what he was able to eat that didn't get him sick.
Right,
And
right.
he was still, able to enjoy like the rest of the kids because at that time they didn't have pizza bowls at any of these places.
Mhm.
Thankfully now, there's so many even like the franchise pizza places, they're doing pizza bowls now because they see obviously there is like a trend now where people are constantly requesting, "Oh, can you just possibly put that all in a bowl for me?" So now they see that there is a business behind it and that they can, put that marketing out there and reel in all this other business. So they see an outlet for it now that they can make money because people are not wanting the crust any longer. So now they're able to kind of cater to everybody. They're not feeling like they have any loss of customers because here they can appeal to the ones that are having to be low carb, and then they can, appeal and satisfy the ones that want the carbs. But very much, I would say over 5 years ago, things were like a little difficult, but now there are so many different options out there now. So it makes it so much easier. Even like the rare occasion that we do go out to eat, he knows that there's so many different options that he can have. And, by now, like he's so used to it. But being a kid that did have, certain standard American diet foods, it was rough in the beginning. But now that there's so many alternatives out there that actually taste better to him than the carb stuff had tasted, he honestly he does not put up any fight at all. So it's been a good couple years since we had any little bit of complaint or any arguments from him. I would say it was more so like the first like 6 months, things were kind of rough for him. But very much so you do go through as a parent, you do go through a kind of guilt, because I feel like that's what society makes you feel like. It makes you feel like if you're not having your child be able to truly live their best life, when it comes to having all the childhood experiences, including like the food that children mainly like, which is, the chicken nuggets and the mac and cheese and the french fries and, all those foods. Like, if you don't basically give that to them, you're basically having them miss out on a good childhood, is what society makes you feel. But when I tell you, he does not miss anything. Even like the younger one, they see stuff. There's commercials that run on TV with all these advertisements of all these different foods and stuff, and they definitely see stuff. But even for the younger one, he literally started keto at the same time that he was being breastfed. So he
Mm.
did not have any standard American
Right.
diet experience. So kind of to have the comparison of kind of, he doesn't know what he's missing, but then in a way he does, because it's not really like out of sight, out of mind. It's very much in sight because it is everywhere. You
Right.
go to the grocery store, it's all there. He's seeing it. It's really about educating even like the younger ones that you're trying to get to eat the same way. It's about educating them in a way they can understand, because you have to really be careful, because even, our little one, he just turned 7 yesterday. So you have to be careful because you don't want the conversation to come across like you are doing like an eating restriction,
Right.
and for it to be developed or perceived as like an eating disorder. You have to be very careful, and you have to kind of really have that conversation in a way and in a mental level that they're ready to understand. And we just kind of explain it to him in a simple way, and we just tell him that, we can do better with the way that we're eating. And we explain to him because he's, old enough that he can understand that his brother did get sick when we were eating certain kind of foods. And we kind of explain to him that, because you are his brother, you have a very high chance that if you ate those same foods, it could possibly happen to you too. We don't know. But we don't want to take a chance of having you eat those foods and for you to go through what your brother went through. So we kind of just really just walk, him through whatever questions he might have, any thoughts he might have. Because he'll look, as we're walking around the grocery store, like he'll see people that we're passing by where they have carts full of, multiple boxes of pizza, how many bags of like potato chips, and he'll have questions. And he'll say like, "Oh, like why does the store?" He's like, "Mommy, why do they sell it? If it's going to get people sick, why do they sell it?" So it's difficult. It's difficult to explain to such a young child when they see the world as so pure and so innocent. We can only explain so much. So he knows of the evil that is out there in the world. He knows that, not everybody is going to have good intentions. We educate him of that because, we want to make sure that, if he's ever approached by anybody, he has to be careful because this person could be a really good person that's innocently coming to you as a caring person to interact with a child, or this person could have a really bad intention of wanting to interact with a
Like,
child.
"Hey, kid, I got these
So
cupcakes. Come with me."
he knows the
Yeah,
good and the bad that's out there. But then again, it's hard to explain it when it comes to the food
right.
that's being sold out there because he just doesn't really get it just yet. Because for him, he says to me, he's like, "Well, mom, why isn't it illegal?" And I'm having to tell him, I'm like, "Well, you know what? In some countries it is. Some countries actually they don't allow. It's called ban. They ban for these ingredients to be sold. Even in some I was seeing several months ago, it was on Facebook where certain European countries, they actually for cereal boxes, I don't know if you saw this, but they don't allow the cereal manufacturers to put characters on the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so and I understand. It's like for me, like it's I'm torn because
Mhm.
I'm a big proponent of we should make our own choices.
Right?
And I think we should be able to make the wrong choices, the right choices.
Mhm.
We have the ability to make the wrong choices till we can figure out what are the
Yeah.
right choices. And I understand like when they took like Joe Camel off the cigarettes, or they
Right.
took, that kind of
Oh
stuff, like
yeah.
the
Mhm.
cartoon characters off of adult products. I understand. I th- and I've been seeing more lately where
Mhm.
there's like, is this like cereal aisles being promoted to children? Is that predatory?
Yeah.
And while I think there is some predatory advertising there,
Mhm.
I don't think it's the responsibility of the advertisement company to not try to sell to kids. That's their whole thing.
Absolutely.
It's the parents' responsibility to go, no, you shouldn't have
Yeah.
this except in, rare occasions or whatever is right
Mhm.
for your family. Because, just the other day I bought a box of the Magic Spoon cereal they're selling now at Costco.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so I bought some and I ate it. And I was pouring a bowl and I was telling Shannon, I was like, if I could go back in time, I would go back and never have cereal because cereal is so good. And
Right.
there's something about the Magic Spoon, like all the other cereals, like the Catalina Crunches,
Mhm.
the Cereal School, like the Wonder Bowl stuff. There's tons of these out there that you can buy in the grocery stores,
Right.
and most of them are awful. The Magic Spoon is really good,
Yeah. They also love it.
but
Yeah.
it's so expensive, and
Yeah.
it kind of gives me like it gives me a little bit of like indigestion and such. But I mean,
Mhm.
that's fine. I don't eat it all that often because it is so expensive, and that's my decision to make that. But that
Yes.
decision to get it every once in a while,
Mhm.
the driving factor is because I was a kid once and
Right.
I loved cereal. That was
Yeah.
easy. So like, you talk about the mac and cheese, the corn dogs, like
Mhm.
pizza rolls and chicken nuggets and all that stuff. That
Right.
stuff is kind of a crutch for parents. It really is because we've all been so exhausted that it's easier to throw a frozen pizza in the oven
Right.
than it is to cook a
Mhm.
full meal. You're doing peeling potatoes or whatever
Yeah.
whatever we were cooking at the time.
Mhm.
It was easier to say, all right, kids, when our kids were older, all right, everybody just make your own ramen.
Yeah.
It was easier because we would both work. We'd get home. I wouldn't even get home till almost 7 o'clock at night. And then you've got like all the stuff. You make sure to do the homework. The dishes have got to be done. You got to cook dinner, and you're trying to be in bed by 10 or 11. And it's like,
Yeah.
I understand like there's these crutches that are put in place for parents where, yeah, there's more things coming out now. You can get fish sticks and you can get, chicken strips and stuff from
Mhm.
like real good foods and such. And they're
Yeah.
okay. I haven't tried the fish sticks yet. Those just came out. but I have a couple bags of the chicken strips in the freezer from when
Right.
I don't feel like cooking for me,
Yeah.
you know? So I think it is kind of it's it's a sad situation where it's predatory on the parents as well
Right.
because it's predatory to the kids whine to parents, parents
Mhm.
give in because they don't want to be bad parents, and then they're also
Exactly.
tired and
Yeah.
they're worn out and they want to put something in the oven,
Yeah.
put something in the microwave and feed their kids.
Mhm.
And eating a whole food diet, carnivore, keto, whatever,
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily have to take all that long, but it does take planning.
Mhm.
If you're going to be quick and easy about it, there is some planning involved. So I get it and I understand like that's going to be the hardest part, I think. I mean, there's a couple of hard parts about all of this. I think about
Yeah.
what happens to our economy or what would happen to our economy if we did something like ban all of the manufactured, easy, like carby foods from the grocery store. Grocery stores would shrink to about 20% the size that they were, if even that big.
Oh, for sure.
And then there's a lot of manufacturing companies who are going to go out of business, jobs lost.
Right.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that you can't.
Yeah.
That it's very difficult to go. Well, you know, cereal companies have got to stop. Mac and
Right.
cheese companies have got to stop. Mashed potatoes and all these things have got to stop. You know, we can't just have them anymore.
Yeah.
But even with education and the buying dollar is going to be what shifts the focus, I think. And if
Mhm.
we can utilize the buying dollar to shift the focus, then obviously we've started doing that because on the surface, there's a lot more ketogenic items on the store shelves. You can get into the debate whether those are keto or not. Most of them
Mhm.
aren't not, but you know they're listening.
Right.
They're paying attention. Our
Yeah.
buying dollars are going to those, so they're all jumping on the bandwagon to provide.
Right. Yeah.
So that's I mean, we just got to do more of the education. We've got to do more things like this. You know what I mean? Like I've got I don't know how many live streams this week. But you know, like we've just you know, we're I mean, and I know sometimes it feels like we're preaching to the choir. Um, because you know, we're talking to people who come into our chats and there's not
Mhm.
always new people coming in, but some. Uh, but yeah, like so I mean it does make a difference because your children are going to grow up and hopefully stay with what they've learned because it's always something a kid can grow
Right.
up. A kid can decide, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. Because even our kids, our boys, because when we started keto, our
Mhm.
daughter didn't live here anymore. Our boys did. They were in middle school and high school, and they weren't happy. We went through and we got rid of everything out of the house.
Mm. Okay.
And we would do certain things for them, like we kept, you know, popcorn in the house for them
Mhm.
and, you know, carrots and things like that. And when they went out with their father, they could go and get fast food, or if they went out with their
Mm.
friends, they stayed the night at their friend's house, they can eat whatever their friends were having. There wasn't a health component like with your boy, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it wasn't as strict outside of the house, but inside of our
Yes.
house, we're only cooking one meal. We're not cooking
Right.
something special for you. And they didn't have money at the time to bring their own food in. And
Mhm.
then when our boy went to college, that all went out the window, and he spent thousands of dollars at Jimmy John's. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I mean, he gained weight back, and you know, now
Right.
he's older now. He's 25, 24 now, 24. He just turned 24, and so he's back on the keto train. He was actually upset with us today at Costco because they got a new, and I know it's dumb, but I pay attention to what Costco's got coming and
Right.
going, and they've got this new loaf of bread
Uh-huh.
that's got actual full cloves of garlic baked into it.
Oh my
It's like
gosh.
$8, so we bought one, and he goes, "What?" He's, like, trying to steal it from us to give it to his non-keto friend or whatever. We're like, "We're gonna buy one. We want to try it. This is not a diet, this is a lifestyle,
Mhm.
and we've built into where we can do things like that.
Yeah,
And it's not, I mean, one, it's $8 for a loaf of this stuff, so we're not gonna buy it off of it. It's expensive.
that's a lot.
Oh, but you know what I mean? And he was
Yeah.
like upset with us, and to where even it broke open when we were putting it in the car. So Shander broke off a piece and was eating some, and I tried it, and he was like, "Oh, can I have some?" She broke off a piece to him, and he threw it,
Oh my
and she was
goodness.
like, "I can't believe." I was like, "What do you think he was
Because
gonna
you
do?"
know what? It's very much what is called in the community as food freedom. Now you know better. You basically have all this knowledge now, but still yet, you still have to realize like it is something that could be controlled, which is something we could not do before.
Right?
You're not going on like a full-on binge.
No.
Um, but very much so, like, I think with the marketing, definitely, definitely, you basically really kind of hit the nail on the head because when it comes to the marketing, think of like food history. Like, think of when those like microwave dinners and think of when like those baked family dinners began. It was literally playing on women being able to do something simple, like literally purchasing everything just boxed up as one and either putting it in the microwave or putting in the oven. And then it was still basically advertised like you're still giving your family a full, nutritious dinner. Nobody thought at that time about like the chemicals that were in it or the sugars that were in it. It was still very much advertised as a nutritious, full dinner that, us women can literally, put on the table and still feel proud about, but did not spend nearly as much time in the kitchen because we didn't have to cook any of it from scratch. So it's very much, anyone that thinks going any form of proper human diet is going to be complicated or they think it's going to be a lot of work, I would definitely say that you are indulging in too many of the keto groups out there when it comes to the recipes. They are all amazing. Don't get me wrong. I've made probably all of them and some for our kids. But like people say, there is a time for everything. Let that creativity come later on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Allow yourself to embrace the simplicity. It is already difficult to transition. A lot of people feel overwhelmed just a transition period. Be kind to yourself. Like, allow yourself to start off small. Like, allow yourself to start off slowly. Don't feel like you have to be creative and make all the recipes that are out there. Be very simple with it. You are going to wholeheartedly appreciate it and embrace it only that much more if you just get really just simple. Really,
I
really
wish
simple.
I wish you had that advice for me in 2016 because we went out and so we went out and we looked at everything in the grocery store like 3 times. Went up and down every aisle. We didn't know what a
Right.
carb was. We were learning from the basic scratch of all of it.
Yeah.
And this is before we really found what keto was. We were thinking low carb. Well, that's got to be less than like 300 grams of carbs a day, right? You know what I mean? Low
Right.
carb, like let's do 150. That's low. We didn't know. And then when we finally, found out what keto was, and we're like, oh, then
Yeah.
we got to buy almond flour, coconut flour, we got to buy
Mhm.
hemp seeds, and we got to buy um, just all the things
Right.
that were available at the
Right.
time and filled our pantry with that stuff. And then, like, I probably still have the same container of hemp seeds I bought in 2016 in my
Oh
cabinet.
gosh.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what to do with them. I bought them because it's a keto thing. You know
Because
what I
it's
mean?
keto.
Like,
Right. Right.
so yeah, the thing is the th- if you can start, and that's kind of what I like to tell people when
Yes.
you're freshly starting. If you need like the chaffles, cool. Those aren't hard to
Yeah.
make. They don't take a lot of
No,
ingredients,
super easy.
but just like hamburger patties,
Yes.
you know, chicken thighs, eggs. We go through a ridiculous amount of eggs. We
Oh,
buy
yeah.
10 dozen at a time.
Us too.
Yeah, so I mean, I try to keep people doing it as simplified as
Mhm.
possible.
Right.
And like my thing is if you're just starting out, don't worry about calories. I still don't really worry about calories. I
Right, right,
use
right. Yes.
calories as a kind of a template to kind of get an idea of
Mhm.
what I should be eating. Like,
Right.
like as far as, okay, what does 1,500 calories look like? What's 2,500 calories look like?
Mhm.
Does that look like a amount of food that I can consume in a day? I mean, there's the things like that, like how much
Right.
ground beef and how many eggs is this many calories, that kind of stuff. But I don't stress about the calories. I'm more
Exactly.
concerned with, am I
The
getting enough protein
data, right, the
and
data
fat?
of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think learning that
Yes.
and try, like, and with you, you found that being, a normal keto, you were still having some issues that came up.
Right.
And I kind of wish there was a way to find out what was actually causing those problems, like what ingredient was causing those
Yeah.
problems. It may not have been the ingredient itself. It could have been in something in the manufacturing process of that product. It could have been something like a chemical they're using on the product. I mean, it could have been, who knows, like something they sprayed on the almonds and the almond flour, or who knows what.
Yeah, because for me, I'm very much like a savory food lover. I'm not crazy about like any sweets or anything like that.
Mhm.
And I absolutely loved like my grandmother's baked goods, like the homemade, bread that she made. So when I tell you, like literally, like our kids loved, anything like I would have made with almond flour, coconut flour, but for me, it was not doing it for me. Did I eat it because like I just wanted to simply just cook, just like that one meal for all of us kind of thing? But it was not like there was truly no comparison to, what came out of my grandmother's oven. Um, so I didn't partake, too much when it came to really anything that was, baked with almond flour, coconut flour. And then we didn't buy anything because obviously, at that time we were on a tight budget. I was a college student. We were on one income at that time. So we didn't partake in really any keto products um, other than, possibly something that might have been like the folio, like cheese wraps and stuff like that. That way, if the kids had like a homeschool meetup, I can just, have that wrapped up with some deli meat for like a quick lunch or something for them. So it was not really like any products or anything that we were, having high cost or anything with. So I can't say any like boxed item that might have had like an ingredient that irritated me. For me, I think only because I still had an issue with also doing ketovore because I did ketovore for several months and still something was irritating me part of ketovore. So I am really strongly feeling it is definitely like a veg that was irritating me. Because I am pregnant, I did start solely incorporating. So far, the only thing I've started introducing so far is avocado. So literally, it's going to be like almost like about a month now that here and there, I've been having avocado. I try not to overdo it with it, but I haven't had any irritation. So that is, definitely something I reintroduced it slowly. Um, and that I've been okay with. So when it comes to avocado, that technically is classified as a fruit, I'm okay with it. I don't know what I'm going to possibly reintroduce next. I'm kind of being careful because, like, currently, right now, I'm basically at like 9 weeks in the pregnancy. So, you also want to kind of make sure that you're not reintroducing and kind of getting like a false understanding that, oh my gosh, I'm getting sick from this reintroduction, but technically it could be pregnancy making me feel
Mhm.
that way. So I'm going slow with it. So far, I've just really kind of started with the avocado, but I'm really curious to kind of see if I want to kind of stretch things a little further with my reintroduction to kind of pinpoint possibly what might have started to irritate me. But it definitely could be scary as well because then you think of, oh my gosh, like, is it worth it because of how much pain I was in? How much limited mobility I had, the irritable bowel syndrome I went through. It's like you start thinking about like all this misery that you went through, and then you think to yourself, like, is it worth it? Because after all, like, it's just food. So I think slowly by slowly, I'm gonna, reintroduce the stuff that I want to kind of, dabble in. It would be nice to have the option, because we do live in Florida and we do have, seasonal times where we have berries that you can actually go and pick. So it would be nice, to be able to, have experiences like that where you can go and pick it and have it, within season. Um, so it would be nice, to slowly kind of do some reintroductions, but still, yeah, in all honesty, I really kind of feel like it's really only going to be pretty much a handful of items that I'll probably be reintroducing only because like I still have a lot of hesitation because I don't want to ever feel like I had felt before. So, in a way, is it kind of important to possibly see what might have irritated me? It would be nice, to know for just knowledge sake, only because nothing comes up. Like if I do like a food allergy test, nothing is detected. If I do like a food sensitivity panel testing, nothing even comes up. So there is nothing that like my body is like literally able to tell me based off on testing if I have any allergy or irritations. It's just kind of going through just eating the foods and my body basically acting out when it came to
Right.
those pains and the IBS. So I'm just kind of gonna take things slowly and kind of see, how everything goes. But I'm telling you, Dustin, like I've been curious myself of
And I would
possibly
like to
what it could have
revisit that.
been.
I'd like
Yeah.
to revisit that a little later in the pregnancy, to
Mm-hmm.
see how that works and see, like, what you've
Right.
reintroduced, what what reactions you may or may not have had. Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and I know we've only been doing this for a little over an hour, but I'm gonna end it. I've
Yes.
got some stuff I have to do tonight. Um, and we will, if you want to do it, we get back together again in a couple of weeks or like maybe 2 months or something like that, a little
Yeah.
later. We can, because there's still more of your story that I want to hear because we
Sure.
focus mainly on your son's story, which is so very important because I don't think we get a lot of the children's side of things
Right.
because some people don't want to necessarily talk about their kids, and we were able to do
Exactly.
so in an and with anonymity. Um, because I know we don't put our little girl, our granddaughter
Mm-hmm.
on screen as much as she wants to be.
Right.
We got her a little VTech camera for Christmas, so she make her own videos, and she goes,
Right.
"Oh, are you gonna be on my keto channel?" So I understand that she wants to be on our channel more than anything, but it's just not something that's appropriate at this point.
Yes.
And
I hear
so
you
I
on
do
that.
want to have you back on in a couple of months and talk and revisit this, not only to hear the rest of your story, but also to hear and see what impacts you've had, what you've reintroduced,
Yeah.
because I think that is so important for us to hear and kind of see and all of that. So I want to thank you so very much for sitting down with me.
Oh, thank you. This
I
is
want to thank the
it's an
chat,
absolute pleasure. Thank you.
and I want to thank all my members. And do you have anything that you would like to promote? Anything you've got coming out?
Well, currently right now, I have basically taken the week off only because we basically were in vacay mode and we're kind of getting back to the reality of everything, especially with me with my work schedule as well as with homeschooling. So there's not going to be anything as far as content from me this week. But Cindy and I, we do have our Friday Night Live that's going to be coming up this Friday. So if everyone can make it there, we would definitely appreciate it. It takes place 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But that's pretty much what we have coming up for this week. But other than that, I just want to thank everyone for coming, especially on a Monday night, because kind of getting into the swing of things at the beginning of the
Mhm.
week can be difficult. But no, I just want to thank everyone so much. And thank you to you as well, Dustin. And I absolutely would love to come back. And, I appreciate anyone that heard the repeat story of our son. I certainly appreciate you hanging in there to hear the repeat of it again. But that's genuinely how everything started for me. So, to kind of keep to that truth is why it always is going to start off with his
Oh,
story.
100%, and it's actually the first time
Absolutely.
I've actually heard that story, so I'm very grateful that you did tell it tonight, and like I said, I'm riveted and I wanna see more and hear more from you. There's so
Yes.
much more
Thank
about
you.
you that I want to know. I've been on your live, but even then it was more focused around us, so to give you a platform to talk about you is so huge. So so we'll talk. We'll figure out when you come back. We'll get you. We'll do it on a Monday or whatever night you need to. Um, but we'll get you
Absolutely.
back. And I just again want to say thank you to everybody. Um, and again, thank you to all of my supporters. You mean the absolute world to me. So let's go ahead and say goodbye to everybody. And Shander and I will see you guys tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be live. And then I have Sean on Saturday morning from Intentional Carnivore. And then my Sunday live. Thursday, Shannon and I will also be on the low carb. I can't think. I posted it on there. I can't think of what it's called right now, but we'll be on a live stream 7:30 Thursday night. So be on the lookout for that as well. Thanks again for everybody
Very
for all
cool.
your chats and interacting. I think the world of you. Love you all, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, everyone.